Good evening. This is the May 3rd, 2018 meeting of the Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission, a meeting in Town Council Chambers. It is now 7:05 p.m. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Commission please introduce themselves, starting on my right?
Ryan Condon, alternate.
Kenneth Wilk, alternate.
Jonathan Formicella, alternate.
Bruno Maini. What do I say again? Commissioner.
William Porter, Chairman.
Paul Lisi, Secretary.
Mike O'Reilly, Vice Chairman.
Jill Agreska, Planner.
Scott Schatz, I am Land Use Group Director and Town Engineer.
Rebecca Wood, Recording Secretary.
And Leon Ambrosi is excused for this evening. Who are we going to seat?
It'd be Ken.
Ken, you're seated.
I take the challenge.
Okay, organizational and administrative matters, we have none. Item number 4, general public participation. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission on anything, any zoning-related issues that are not related to public hearings or open applications? Seeing none, we'll move on. General appointments, we have none. Item number 6, under public hearings. Planning and Zoning Commission, Monroe, Connecticut, notice of public hearing to be held April 5th. This was delayed, is that the
Yes.
reason? All right, this was first notice for April 5th. In accordance with Connecticut General Statute 8-7D, a public hearing will be held in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, on Thursday, April 5th, 2018, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, concerning the following: SCP 2014-14-A3, file number 1550A, 50 Cambridge Drive, Axle Plastics. Permit approval amendment modification proposing material, chemical exterior storage container, 3 exterior overflow tanks, chain link fence storage compound, reconfiguration of parking, and relocation of dumpster enclosure and reserve parking. Owner Cambridge Drive RE LLC. Complete details and copies of all related materials associated with the above matter on file and available for viewing in the Monroe Planning and Zoning Department offices. Will, you have an updated list of exhibits?
The exhibit 1 is permanent approval amendment application. Exhibit 2, safety data sheets. Exhibit 3, notice of certificate decision amendment previous approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission. And I note that's a previous approval for a portion of the proposal. Exhibit 4, notification to acquiring water company. Exhibit 5, notification to the Connecticut Department of Public Health. Exhibit 6, overflow tank details. Exhibit 7, material storage building details. Exhibit 8, site plan set. Exhibit 9, green card notifications from acquiring water company. Exhibit 10, police chief comments. Exhibit 11, fire marshal comments. Exhibit 12, building official comments. Exhibit 13, town engineer comments. Exhibit 14, planner comments. Exhibit 15, extension request by the applicant. Exhibit 16, response to comments by applicant. Exhibit 17, revised site plans. Exhibit 18, planner updated comments. Exhibit 19, updated engineer comments. Exhibit 20, extension request, time extension request. Exhibit 21, a butter certificate, mail receipts and green cards at the public hearing. Exhibit 22, ARB referral recommendation comments. That is all. We are still pending a resolve of the wetlands report for the items that were missing from the first recommendation approval.
Okay. And I skipped over reading the instruction for a public hearing, so I'll do that now. There are 2 sets of microphones for both public address and recording of the proceedings. Due to the need for recording, it is important to stand at the microphone at all times and speak into it loudly and clearly in order that everyone in the room can hear and to capture what is being said. Individuals speaking from the seats will not be heard and will not be recognized to speak. Rules and procedures of the hearing. Order of the hearing of an application. Points of order and responses will be entertained. Exhibits will be read for the record. Applicant and/or representatives will present the application and will answer commission questions. The floor will be open to those in favor. The floor will be open to those opposed. The floor will be open to general comments or questions. The floor will be open to the applicant, who may take the opportunity for closing remarks or rebuttal, after which discussion will close. The applicant or his representatives are the final speakers. No comment shall be accepted from anyone unless recognized by the chair. All questions and comments shall be addressed to the chair, who will determine if an answer shall be provided and by whom. There shall be absolutely no discussion between speakers and the audience. The commission has no intention to limit the right of any person to speak, but asks that speakers try not to be repetitive. Please try to present new information. If something has been said before, the commission would invite you to indicate your agreement with previous speakers. At no time shall there be displays of emotion, such as applause, cheering, shouting, or similar noise. This is critical, as this hearing is being recorded. If this happens, you will be cautioned. A vote or demonstration by a show of hands, standing by the audience, or similar action will not be recognized. All parties are requested not to talk between themselves while the hearing is in progress. If you feel the need to talk, please step out into the lobby. All speakers, when recognized, must advance to the microphone to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. The chairman reserves the right to cut off discussion if it is not relevant to the application or is presented in an inappropriate manner. This is a legal proceeding, much the same as what would occur in a courtroom setting. We request that all parties observe the proper decorum that would be observed in that setting. Please turn off all cell phones or similar devices. If you have a need to use these devices, please leave the room and use them outside. Okay, Will has read the list of exhibits. So, for the applicant.
Just before you get started, Dave, I just wanted to correct that my comments under administrative, one, the Wetlands Commission, I've got here that they're opening their hearing at 4/25/18. They opened it, closed it, and now they're gonna be voting on the 9th of May.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is David Bjorklund. I'm president of the firm of Spath Bjorklund Associates, and we have offices in Monroe, and I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. The application before you this evening is for several modifications to the site plan. Just a bit of history. This is for Axle Plastics, which is at 50 Cambridge Drive. The building was constructed and all the site improvements were constructed several years ago. Axle is in the building and operating, and as they have gotten into the building and become comfortable with it, there have been some issues internally within the building and some external situations that really weren't, we didn't foresee those at the time when they were doing the planning for the building. So I'll take these one at a time. The first one is located right here, and this is a storage locker that holds 55-gallon drums. Axle receives their chemicals by 55-gallon drums, and this building is it's a prefab steel building that is approximately 40 feet by 11 feet by 11 feet tall. And it's designed for the storage of 55-gallon drums on pallets. It'll hold drums. It also has a container, a sump underneath it, so that if there is a spill of one drum or a couple of drums, there is a 1,700-gallon reservoir underneath the facility if there is a drum failure. The storage of those drums was slated to take place here. The space just isn't big enough as they got in and they got operating. So this is a prefab structure that they went out and bought. It displaces a couple of arborvitae trees. We're proposing to replace those to screen the facility. The reason it's located at this location right here is because these drums come up. They get delivered, they get put into this locker, and then the loading docks for the facility are right here. So what we wanted to do was to have this in close proximity to the loading docks so that they could be stored and then put into the building when they're required for production purposes. The second issue with the site plan modifications is in this area here, Axel had constructed a chain link fence to store. Let me see if I can get to the picture here. Okay, this is a picture of the facility, and this was constructed without the knowledge that this was something that would have to be approved by both wetlands and the Planning and Zoning Commission. And these are plastic containers that arrive. They're clean when they arrive. They haven't been recycled. And Axel uses these to actually put product into, and then they export them. So what is within this storage area here, and the storage area is simply to stop from the theft of these containers. They come into this area, and when they need them to export product, they come out of this area, and they're sent on their way. There is no recycling of these. This displaces some parking spaces, and you can see on the site plan here, we're proposing to create 2 new permanent spaces and then deferred parking in this area here, which is an existing grass area. There is a sidewalk that leads to a man door at the back of the building here. So our parking stays in compliance. We are proposing to screen this with the black polyvinyl slats within the chain link fence. As far as visibility from the road goes, Cambridge Drive ends right about here. This is the end of the pavement, and beyond this is the entrance to the quarry. So we don't have traffic on Cambridge Drive except for the trucks going in and out of the quarry. This is a long way from Cambridge Drive, and it's so far off of Cambridge Drive. If you're looking out of your car and you can spot this, you're definitely not watching the road. And as I said, the road ends right there. So the last issue is that Axel installed 3 reservoirs in this area here. And again, this is the storage container. That's it's sitting. It hasn't been put in place yet. It arrived, and it's being stored in an access road to a future parking lot. Originally, when the building was designed and the equipment was installed, it wasn't anticipated that a spill would occur. Well, guess what? A spill occurred. And at that point in time, Axel decided that that it would be very prudent, instead of go through another spill and report it to DEEP and the fire marshal, would be to install these containers. There's a 500, 1,000, and a 1,500. And all these purpose of these reservoirs is if the equipment does fail in the future, instead of spilling out onto the ground, they're going to go into these reservoirs. There is an access road that was designed originally. It's pavers. It's not a driveway, but it does allow a pumper to come down and empty those reservoirs. So it's a safety factor. Again, those are installed. It was done without site plan approval, but it was thought that it was more prudent to get these in and prevent another spill, and then come to the commission for approval rather than have the equipment possibly fail again and have another spill. Yeah. The last item that I'd like to go over, and it is not part of the application, but in a discussion with Will Agresta, he said bring it forward to the commission tonight. Commissioners who remember this site before Axel acquired it, this site was owned by L&L Evergreen. And L&L Evergreen, when they left the site, they were a wholesale landscape products company. And when they left the site there's a parking lot over in this area here, they just abandoned a lot of nursery stock. And surprisingly, it's survived several severe winters. This is, bald nursery stock. And there are weeping cherries, there are lilac bushes that are part of that. And they were thinking that they would get to it last year to do the planting. They just got busy and it never happened. But what this plan here shows is how they would like to take and plant this leftover nursery stock and enhance the landscaping plan as it already is, on the property. So, and I, don't think that additional landscaping is going to hurt. But so, they're basically flowering trees. There's one magnolia tree that's proposed, but it's really to take this leftover nursery stock and let's plant it and put it to use rather than just let it die. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
No question.
Nothing? No questions.
This has to remain open until we get inland
That's
wetlands, right? Okay. I didn't have any questions for right now.
No questions. Yeah, I have a few questions. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that there was a reservoir for the containers that were stored.
Yes.
Is that in the photo as well?
I
Was that the fenced-in area, or is that the?
No, this is the.
No.
What is it? There. These are rolling steel doors that come up, and the reservoir is located underneath here.
Okay. So there's no
And
reservoir?
I think if 40% of the drums failed, there's enough storage in there to store that.
So there's no reservoir for the other product that's in the fenced-in area?
No, these come in empty. These are empty.
Okay.
They're not, when they're stored here, they're empty. They don't take them into the plant, fill them, and then bring them back out. They go into the plant and they're shipped. Jake Axel is here. And this is just storage. They go in, they fill them up, and they're shipped out.
And just one other question, regarding the system that has been put in place to prevent the spillage that has occurred in the past, how does that work, actually? Are those for spills that occur within the building?
This is, Jake, if you could.
Yeah, sure.
I think I know the answer, but I think Jake Axel could probably answer it much better.
So the tanks, they're double-wall plastic tanks, are attached to the vent lines, which are on the top of the vessels in the building. What we didn't anticipate was that liquid under, if one of our operators makes a mistake, can get through the vent line and go outside. So this is a pretty standard practice to put a container on the vent line so that if a mistake occurs, it's just contained, it doesn't go outside, and it holds the liquid. And it's designed for 4 times or 5 times more than we could possibly spill.
Okay, so it was going
Sure.
vertical,
Jake
probably
Axel.
up,
Yes.
as opposed to leaking at the bottom somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a pretty, they're in our industry, they're called knock pots. It's a very standard, practical way to do it.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
What was the volume of the spill?
We lost 110 gallons. So our smallest one is 550, our largest one is 1,500. We just,
Was that prior to the installation of these?
yes, yeah. And the problem we had was it went outside and then it rained. So it was cost us about $100,000 to clean up 110 gallons.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Just going through some of the staff comments, what is the status of the original SEP permit?
Some of these items have already been addressed. We're working our way through them. We've been working with Scott to work our way through them. I would say we're at the 90–95% level.
Yeah,
Excuse me, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, we're waiting for a report from Conrad.
Yeah, there's a couple of items that are still outstanding that we're in the process of communicating with them, but they're hoping to get the bond back soon. There's a couple things that do have to get finished. My last comment, number 5, where I'm talking about the bond for the existing, can cover this. They're looking to get that bond back. The Inland Wetlands Commission is requiring a $2,500 bond, which is the minimal amount. And it's a very small area that's going to get disturbed in this case, because they're just talking about the parking lot expansion right here. So if you're okay with it, I don't even see the need for a bond with P&Z, because Inland Wetlands is bonding for it.
And there's an existing bond.
Well, the existing bond most likely is going to get released.
But that hasn't been requested.
It's been requested, and that's what he's talking about. There's a few straggling items, but they're trying to get their
Oh, okay.
existing bond.
We don't have it before us
You
tonight.
do not have it before you tonight. All right, so Will, you're in agreement with Scott that the original application items are in the process of being cleaned up?
Well, I agree they're in the process. I wrote this back in April, so haven't followed up with, I should have done that today, but I didn't follow up with Conrad or Scott where they are today, so.
There still are a few outstanding items, things like there's a bunch of areas around the basin that were disturbed and haven't been restored yet. There's some landscaping areas that haven't been cleaned up. Trying to remember what else, but it's winding down, so we're getting
Well,
there.
and the fact that we have to leave this open until after we hear from wetlands, it gives the applicant time to just get this stuff wrapped up. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, as I said, we've been working, diligently on it since last fall. And some of the things, on the list we have, the last 2 items, the inland wetland markers and the barriers, that's already on the as-built plan. We just haven't presented the final version of it.
Okay.
And as I said, we've been in touch with Scott early this week, and now we're waiting to see the final report from Conrad.
Yeah, the bond request and recommendation is a separate issue from this.
Okay. All right, any of the other commission members have any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Bjork, let's see if anyone from the public has anything to say. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any general questions or comments? Back to you, Mr. Bjorklund.
I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Then we will continue this to May 17th? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. Continue to the 17th. Okay, next up, item number 7, site development plan. We have nothing. Moving on to deliberations and determinations, item number 8, time extensions. First up is 1-07-S, file 1453A, 74 Enterprise Drive, Infante. Welcome back, Mr. Infante.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Infante, 74 Enterprise Drive, Monroe. I'm here this evening to request an extension of time on our special exception permit that we were granted for the completion of our second building, actually the start of the second building, and to complete it and to complete the entire project. We have been in the process of cleaning up the site in preparation of starting the building. I met with Mr. Joseph Chapman on several occasions over the last 2-3 months, and we went over different areas that he wanted cleaned up and where he wanted items moved to, which we have done. I supplied a print showing what has been moved. I don't know if it's available here, but I turned it in. And yep, that's the print. And Mr. Chapman and I had gone over this, and he had told me where he wanted me to move the various items to get the area clean so we could start the building, which we have done.
There seems to be some misunderstanding about that. I mean, isn't it just about moving stuff elsewhere?
Excuse me?
It's not just about moving stuff elsewhere on the site. It's
Well, we
it's
have
moving it to be
removed,
in- It's moving things to be in compliance with your approved plan, which means not just consolidation, but also removal, because there's some of the areas that are for parking, you can't just move something over into the parking area. That doesn't belong in the parking area.
right, right. We have removed
Yes,
some vehicles from the area. We have removed, there was, I call them pup tents. Those have all been removed. Those are not there anymore. There is some Connex boxes, which we have material for the new building in. And also, we do have some snowplows that we have moved on the, closer to the rear, actually I guess it would be the northern property line, while we're building the new building. At which time, once the building's finished, a lot of this vehicles will be inside the second building.
And is it correct you're requesting a 6-month extension?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's start down at the end. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns?
No. No.
When do you think you'll start the second building?
Excuse me?
Do you have plans to start the second building?
Yes, we do. Right now, our paperwork is being put together for a small business administration guaranteed loan. It's going to be going through M&T Bank, which is located in Monroe. They have a branch there. And the SBA will be guaranteeing the loan. As soon as we get that guarantee, then we would start it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have no other questions. I have been in touch with Mr. Chapman, and he's indicated that you have been working away at bringing the property closer to compliance. He did indicate there's still work to do.
This is true.
And we're, anticipating that you're going to continue along the path that you're on to bring this into compliance.
That's for sure.
Okay, I have no other questions. If you have nothing else to,
No, that's about it. Just, we want to move forward with it, and we definitely need the extension.
okay. Well, we will probably deliberate on this a little bit later this evening.
You can do it this time. That's
We
what
can do
we're in.
We can do it now?
Yeah, we're in
I
deliberation.
thought we had to wait till
No,
12.
we're in deliberation, so each one of these things can be done during when we talk.
Okay.
Is there a building permit? Do you have a building permit?
Excuse me?
Do you have a building permit?
No, I was told I couldn't apply for a building permit until we had an extension.
And he gets a loan. All right. Well, if there's no other questions. Ken,
Well-
you're seated.
Wilk, yes.
Well, no, we have to make a motion
Oh,
first.
make a motion, sorry. Shot.
Time is 11.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we grant the 6-month extension for 1-07-S, file number 1453A as an alpha for 74 Enterprise Drive in Fante.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? We'll call the roll.
Wilk, yes.
Mayne, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lacy, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
Mr. Infante, you're set for another 6 months.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
Let's,
thank you to the board.
Let's keep working at it, though. Let's not wait until September.
No,
Okay.
definitely won't. Thank you.
Next up, and we'll do these two together, 13-2 ZCA File 993D, 579 Main Street, McDonald's Restaurant, request for a 90-day extension. 13-1-SEP File number 1518A, 579 Main Street, McDonald's Restaurant, request for a 90-day extension. We have a letter dated March 21st, 2018, to Mr. William Agresta, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Dear Mr. Agresta, this shall serve as a request on behalf of Real Time Investments LLC and McDonald's Corporation for an additional extension of 90 days to record the special permit and zone boundary change approval approved by the Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission, originally dated August 29, 2013, which had previously been extended to December 30th, 2016, further extended to April 1st, 2017, then to June 30th, 2017, then to September 28th, 2017, then to December 27th, 2017, then to March 27th, 2018, and lastly, June 25th, 2018, for the property located at 579 Main Street. If approved, the new deadline to record the approvals would be September 21st, 2018. The applicant is in the process of addressing comments from the town departments. Your continued assistance in this matter is greatly appreciated. Yours truly, Christopher Russo.
Chris is
Do
here.
we have someone from the,
Yeah, Chris was here.
I would have let you read this.
Sorry about that, Chairman and Commissioners. Good to be with you tonight. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices 1 Post Road in Fairfield, on behalf of McDonald's Corporation. We've submitted a request for a time extension. We're making progress on the building permit. We just received approval from Connecticut DOT. I think right now the building permit is with the health department. It's being reviewed by the health department. So it's progressing, it's made some improvements, but we still need some more time to address all comments with
Can
regard to the building.
you expand on where we are with finalizing? I mean, I have a piece of the plan that I got recently, but where are we with really finalizing those plans and?
Well, I think there were some revisions when it was submitted to the DOT, and I think those have been submitted
That's
to
what I
you.
have now, but
Right.
I'm really looking at the things that we kind of were working on months before that.
Well, the issue is, I think you're speaking to the easement.
Easements one,
and
architectural plans.
The issue is the way the approval is structured. We can't record a notice of an approval until we record those documents. And the issue with that is it is possible if we record an easement that McDonald's would still not obtain a building permit. It's a possibility, does not seem likely at this point, but it's a possibility. And if that did happen, the property would be encumbered by a valid easement without the ability to actually build the restaurant that was part of the approval.
No, I understand that, Chris.
Right.
There's just some loose ends on the plans on the architectural side, on the easement, that it would be nice if we could just have them finalized, finished, and sitting ready to go. I'm not worried about you putting it on the land record exactly. It's really just having it cleaned up, and we have a set of plans, so that when we get to, if you're working on the building permit, we don't have to wait for them to be printed, go through the endorsement and all, because that takes time on our end too.
Well, if the DOT plans, if the changes that were made there, if you want us to incorporate those changes into our final plan set, we could submit a final plan set that that had the revisions from DOT, and then that would be set and I think ready to go.
I mean, you've been very cooperative, don't get me wrong, I know you know that, but, and I know what you're dealing with, but is there, other than us saying, okay with the DOT changes and whatever, and, I mean, where really are we? It seems like things disappear for a couple months, and then
I
they're
think
good in a couple months.
just because of the way the approval's structured, the applicant wants to be assured that they are going to get the building permit before they move forward.
Mhm.
And the owner wants to be sure that the applicant is going to be able to operate a restaurant there before they encumber their property.
Okay.
So it is something where the two of them, I think once both parties know that the only thing with the building permit is that the zoning approvals be recorded, and we know we have the easements been agreed to by the town and the owner and the applicant. So I think the zoning approvals are ready to be recorded. It's just making sure that the building permit would also be approved minus all the zoning.
Okay.
And so they just basically want those two to be sure to be approved before they move forward.
So, again, I'm sure it is yours too, but.
Yes.
So if we could find a way between the two of us to push the others to get what we need.
Yeah, and I think part of the beginning part of the delay, I think, was because this obviously was involved in a court case, and so there was this application was on ice for a long time. And then when it came back, there were some completely different people involved, different firms, and so it was, and different engineers, and except for Spath Bjorklund, who's been here all the way, but getting everybody up to speed and familiarized, that took a long time to get that going. The DOT approval also took some time, longer, I think, than anticipated. But now it seems that was a big hurdle, and we're through that. So I think we're close to being done
I
with
don't know
that.
if you know this, I don't know of it either, but is there gonna be a different operator than what was originally intended?
The operator of the McDonald's restaurant?
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm
I don't
not
know,
aware
I
of
heard
that.
through the grapevine that the current McDonald's was gonna be the operator, and now he's not, he's selling that or something.
I'm not aware of that. Sorry. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I have no
Any
questions.
other,
Nope. Thank you, Chairman.
okay. Well, do we have a motion?
Move to approve, do them both.
Yes.
Application 13-2 ZCA, file 99 3D, 579 Main Street, and SCP 13-1, file 1518A, 579 Main Street, for a 90-day extension.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Wilk, yes.
Mayini, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
Okay. Next up, SCP 2016-11, file number 1581A, 269 Purdy Hill Road, Burr Corner, age restricted, requesting a 90-day extension.
There's no one here for that. There's a lengthy declarations document, which, you know, is the creation of the homeowners association, and deals with, you know, all the particulars of the development. I had been through that one, so I've given the applicant comments on it. There's been some back and forth on some other related documents. They have my comments, so we're waiting for them for that. They have yet to submit to us any of the final plans for review for ROA. And they also, at some point, I assume, would come back in for an amendment to add in the 16th unit based on the amendment to the regulations that you did recently. So they need more time, obviously, to keep working on that.
So did you get a request from them?
Not yet. I met with them. They're aware of it, obviously. And there's another revision or amendment that they want to do, and I said, well, do them both at the same time. It's not a plan revision, it's a timing change in approval, but they haven't come forth with that, or, like I said, they haven't come forth with the final plans either.
But have they, do you have a request for an extension? We have nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have this?
No.
I'm sorry.
Dear Will, it appears that we will need an additional 90-day extension to the modifications and requirements of approval, which is currently set to expire May 4th, 2018. Certainly our hope that with this latest extension, we will finally be able to resolve all of the outstanding issues. Please let me know if there are any problems. Yours truly, Kim Danziger. All right, so we have an extension request. Will says they're working on it, so.
What was the main holdup?
Well, I think there's a couple things going on. One, at the beginning, they were, always upset about the 16th unit, so they were mulling that over, and they eventually came in with the text amendment. The legal instrument, HO papers, thing like this, half of it's boilerplate, but, then prepare that, submit that. I think also the market conditions didn't materialize to what they thought they would, so in a way, they may not be in that much of a hurry.
All right, we have a motion.
Move to approve SCP 2016-11, file 1581A for a 90-day extension.
Second.
Now, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Wilk, yes.
Mayne, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
All right, moving on. Item number 9, bond releases or reductions. We have none. Item number 10, permit amendment modifications, SDP 2017-02-A2, file 122, 35 Corporate Drive, new and modified exterior lighting. Will, what do you have for exhibits?
Exhibit 1, application material. Exhibit 2, notification declaring war in Department of Public Health. Exhibit 3, illumination plan. Exhibit 4, police ART comments. Exhibit 5, town engineer ART comments. Exhibit 6, fire marshal ART comments. Exhibit 7, response to ART comments by the applicant. And I don't know why. There should be an exhibit with planner comments dated April 25th, 2018. Do you all not have those?
Yeah, we got those at the last meeting,
Okay.
the meeting that was canceled.
Right, that doesn't seem to be recorded in my exhibit list, so I will add that in as exhibit A.
Okay. That's it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Welcome back, Mr. Sonicson.
Good evening. My name is Rob Sonicson. I'm with partner Waldo and Associates. Tonight we're here to talk about approval of a site plan amendment for site lighting for 35 Corporate Drive. What occurred was the NBC United did a large rebate program at their headquarters in Stamford. The electric companies have been very cooperative and have been encouraging people to switch out old, inefficient fixtures for new, similar, in-kind fixtures that are more energy efficient. And they get a rebate for their electrical, on their electric bill. They sort of piggybacked the same program here at 35 Corporate Drive, but they failed to apply and receive the necessary site plan amendment. What they did was they replaced 3 spotlights that are on the loading bay areas, which is a very critical place for good lighting, with in-kind fixtures. Those 3 fixtures are essentially duplicates of what were already there, except they're more efficient. They do not meet the full dark sky cutoff requirements, but in conversation with the Planning and Zoning Office, we were under the impression that in-kind replacements are something that could potentially be approved. They added wall-mounted lights, 9 wall-mounted lights, 2 over each one of the entry doors, and 2 on the south side of the building, and the remainder on the east side of the building. These are rectangular wall-mounted fixtures, which are strict replacement of what was already there, but more efficient. They are in place, and they are mounted 8 feet above the ground, which is important because most of them are on the east side of the building where the containers are going to be stacked. The containers are 10 feet high. Some of them double stacked are going to be 20 feet high. So all of those wall-mounted fixtures none of that light's going to escape down toward Main Street from those fixtures. They also added 3 completely compliant fixtures to the north side of the building, which is the entrance side of the building where the new generator went. These are down-facing wall-mounted fixtures which are completely compliant with the zoning regulations and conditions. They also replaced the fixtures in the pole-mounted lights around the property. They didn't replace any poles, they simply replaced the fixtures, which were old shoebox type fixtures, with single down-facing code compliant fixtures around the perimeter of the parking lot, particularly on the west side of the building, and also 2 lights on the driveway side. Finally, they added 8 fixtures, spotlight fixtures on the back or the loading dock side of the building, the west side of the building, which are not code compliant, zoning code compliant, because they are not fixed, and also they don't meet the full dark sky requirement. The recommendation that we have for those 8 fixtures, which are really the only ones that we saw as being not compliant with the regulations, was to add shields to them. There are 14-inch shields that can be retrofit to the lights, which will cover them from the top, which will prevent excess glare from escaping upward from the site lights. that is something that we're suggesting. We think it's going to be an improvement. But as a practical matter, that side of the building, those lights shine onto a 60-foot rock cut within the property, and none of the light escapes from the property under the existing conditions. So we're suggesting to retrofit, to try to improve upon a situation that we don't really feel is causing a significant amount of light pollution on the property. We do have, and I don't know if you'll be able to see them effectively here, but we've got it's a letter to Will. This is our. That's what the light's going to look like at night. And as you can see, the extent of the light does not reach Corporate Drive anywhere here. The site property boundary is off the sheet. This is the 60-foot rock cliff here. The south side of the building is not nearly as well lit because that's not an active area, but there's also a high rock cut on this side of the building. And these are the lights that I was talking about, the 8-foot mounted lights that are going to shine on the front of the containers. The reason that it's most important for NBCU to have the light shining on the front of the containers is so that they can monitor the security cameras, because those are the areas that they feel would be the potential locations that there might be vandalism or an attempt to break into the containers. They do have full-time 24-hour security on site, and they have also put up a wide array of security cameras so they can monitor the entire site. There's very valuable material that's contained both within the building, of course, but also within the containers. And that's the reason that they have this area lit. But as you can see, the light does not spill off onto the embankment or anywhere off the site. One of the things that Will brought up in his staff comments were that the driveway lights, the current pole-mounted lights along the driveway, the light does spill off property onto Corporate Drive. Our response to that is that the property owner owns Corporate Drive, and that in our opinion and in NBC's opinion, it's critically important to be able to have a well-lit driveway entrance. And we suggest that even though the lighting in Corporate Drive is above zero, it's a safe and appropriate way of lighting the driveway entrance. One of the other things that Will asked for was us to revise the plan to show the average lighting. So we have a couple of plans. This one is a plan that shows the diminution of the light down to zero at the edge of the property. One of the other things that Waldo, well, this is comes from the lighting designer, and down in this column in here, you can see that on the site, the average is 0.57 lumens. The entrance driveway average lighting is 2.3 lumens, and the pavement around the building, the average lighting is 1.76 lumens. All of those levels are consistent with the range that's contained in your zoning regulations for lighting of the site. We also included another site plan that Waldo and Associates did that overlaid the site plan on top of the lighting plan so you can really see where the property boundaries are. So that concludes my presentation on this. Once again, the lights are much more efficient. NBC is going to generally, as we've indicated before, there will be very limited times that they'll be working at any night work going on the outside, but all the containers are on their way to Monroe from South Korea, and they will be arriving within a fairly short period of time. When they arrive, there'll be a lot of activity because they have to move a lot of containers as they're arriving. There may be some work. It's a good time of the year for them because, you know, we have long days, but there may be some time that they'll need some additional illumination. They're using very heavy equipment. It's very important that they have enough light to be able to move these containers off the trucks, move them around on the site, and we request that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve our lighting plan. Thank you.
No question.
No question.
Propose on the back of the property,
Yeah.
having those shields in place won't inhibit NBC from doing what they need to?
We do not expect to. Unfortunately, the lighting designer said they couldn't model what the shields will do. There may be some cutoff on the sides. There definitely will be cutoff for light going upward, but they don't need the light going upward. They need the light on the ground. We don't think it's going to be a serious problem for them, but we really are going to have to install them to see how effectively they're going to work.
I'm all set, thanks.
You mentioned that during the installation of the containers that the lighting would be required in the evening, of course. But after they're in place, going forward, what is the schedule for, you know, is the property going to be lit up?
There will be some site lighting for security purposes, primarily shining on the containers. But those lights are the 8-foot-high wall-mounted fixtures, and they are not going to escape over top of the containers. The reason for that is, and we've gone through this on other projects, I've gone through this on other projects, you can have infrared security, but the security system does much better if there is some light so that it can see the front of the containers.
So all the other lighting on the property will only be utilized during the winter months?
When they're or when they're moving containers around, that's when they'd have the lights on. They don't leave the lights on all the time in the back of the building if there's no activity going on back there. The back, the loading dock side, which I call, it's the west side, which is really the side of the building. There won't be, the lights on the north side won't be on unless there's traffic coming and going. There's no reason to light that side of the building.
Okay. Thank you.
Once the shields are on, it will be dark sky compliant? Is that correct?
That's a technical term. What they're doing, what the shields are doing is they are blocking the light from going upward, so they will have the effect of making them dark sky compliant. I'm not a lighting expert. That's what the lighting designer said would be, in his opinion, an effective step toward making them compliant with the dark sky requirement.
All right, thank you.
Nothing else?
Nothing.
All these lights have been installed already,
They are. They have been.
so nobody thought that should check with the department before installing them?
There was discussion about lighting at earlier Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, and I was asked directly what the plans were for lighting, and I honestly said that I wasn't aware of any plans for the lighting. The lighting was put up by NBC, and there wasn't good communication with the owner because we would have gone, because we were aware that the requirement was in place. However, when they found out, NBC came with us to a meeting at the planning department, and they indicated that they would do what was necessary to make their lighting compliant.
So my understanding is the pole lights are compliant.
The pole lights are compliant
The
and are
spotlights on the west side of the building, they're proposing to put shields on.
correct,
And the wall packs, they're asking to leave them as is,
as being in-kind replacements of what was already there.
but non-conforming.
They don't meet the dark sky requirements, so they were prior existing non-conforming wall-mounted fixtures.
So you're asking to be allowed to continue using non-compliant fixtures?
As an in-kind replacement for prior existing
Okay.
fixtures.
I just wanted the commission to be clear on exactly what it is you're looking for.
Right, and that was one of the things that when we did meet with staff did indicate to us that, of course, the commission is always looking to improve, but they have approved in-kind replacement if that, in fact, is what we did.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So, members of the commission, well, Will, I should ask if you have any other
No, no.
comments? Okay, so, comments?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
And everybody's fine with allowing the use of a non-compliant light fixture?
Yes,
Replacing in kind, I don't have
There-
an issue with that.
Okay, and the new
And
pole
the
lights,
shields, hopefully, will.
new pole lights are compliant and the rear spotlights will be shielded?
Yeah, although they're up against a 60-foot, you know,
Right, but
Rock
we still have a responsibility to try to
that's kind of
follow
a shield
the
in itself.
requirements to the best of our ability.
they're just trying to make them more energy efficient, the income, right? That's my understanding. So, to take advantage of what
And-
the electric,
Get more light.
yeah. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we sign off on permit amendment modifications, SDP 2017-02-A2, file 122, 35 Corporate Drive for new and modified exterior lighting.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, for the record, the existing pole, the new pole lights are dark sky compliant. The spotlights on the west side of the building will be shielded as agreed to by the applicant, and the balance of the lights will be allowed to remain as an in-kind replacement. Anything else? Call the roll.
Wilk, yes.
Mayne, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisi, yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, item number 11, meeting minutes, April 5th, 2018. Present were Porter, Lisi, Ambrosi, Condon, Formicelli, absent Michael O'Reilly, Bruno, and Ken Wilk. So let's see. What are we gonna do here? We don't wanna seat them just to,
Well, you can see it for the minutes, it's the last thing anyway, so.
or do we just wanna carry it till our next meeting?
do that.
I'd hate to waste a seat on voting on meeting minutes. You understand what I'm saying? If we seat you, that's your turn in rotation, and it's, all right, we're gonna table this.
You mean too much to us.
Yes.
Your opinion matters. Pending application deliberations, determinations, there's nothing else, right? Item number 13, regulations review amendment work session. I just want to point out to the commission that, once again, we're in the process of trying to get the text amendment to a public hearing. And we're still getting a lot of, the EDC and the first selectmen are getting a lot of feedback from various people and businesses in town. So at the first selectmen's request, we're going to be holding a subcommittee meeting next Wednesday, which is going to be a session that's open to the public where we're going to be reviewing the proposed text amendment. It's going to be held Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Massac High School. As I said, it is a subcommittee meeting. The subcommittee members will be there, but obviously any of you are welcome to attend that meeting. We're going to have an open forum with whoever from town shows up. We're going to review the proposed amendment and take public input, because there seems to be a great deal of misinformation floating around, so we want to educate the public on what we're looking to do and get their feedback, any comments on likes or dislikes about what we're proposing. So that's next Wednesday, 7 p.m. at Massac.
That's in the auditorium?
Yes.
Yes,
Wow, that's a lot of space.
it's what was available.
It took a week to get it.
Sounds like I needed it.
Item number 14, correspondence. I have not received anything. Anything else that correspondence-wise, well?
Nope.
All right, 15, commission's reports, chairman's reports. Well, I've reported, about the subcommittee meeting. Anybody else have anything they wish to,
Just a quick question on that. I thought I saw in the paper that was gonna be at Jockey Hollow.
That
So
was for
Yeah.
about 5 minutes,
Okay.
or one day.
Correspondence is going on
Just
that.
wanted
that,
to make
it
sure.
was scheduled for Jockey
Okay.
Hollow, and then it
Not
was
enough space there.
realized by, the Board of Ed realized that they already had something booked there for that night. So it got changed.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, it's all part of our conspiracy. For the record, the First Selectman's office has been responsible for coordinating and scheduling this meeting. Land use reports?
I just had something really quick. I just wanted to point out after our meeting on 35 Corporate that, I've run up against an issue with the lighting for driveways, in that it's my opinion, from a technical perspective, that we really shouldn't be that concerned about a little bit of spillage over on the driveway. It's a safe thing to have lighting out at the road, at the driveway. If the road is really well lit, there's no reason to have every single driveway really well lit either. But in most cases, a little bit of spillage out onto the roadway for a driveway lighting is actually a good thing.
I almost think that it should be maybe a required thing, if it could be. As you said, it's a safety issue.
So the regulation would have to be just tweaked a little bit, because your regulation says that there's no light spillage allowed beyond the property line.
And we could just say accepted driveways.
Accepted driveways accepted by, if you want to say by the town engineer or.
And we'll put that on our list of things to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other part of that tweak would be that in looking at it, there should be consideration of what exists, right? Because if the light, like the street is fully lit, there's no reason to duplicate that lighting
Right.
that's in the street.
Yeah, but it's not a town road, right?
Well, that road could have lighting too. Like Victoria Drive is a private road, and part of the approval of the subdivision of Victoria Drive is there's supposed to be lights on that road. But whether it's a, that's just that road. I mean, we
Yeah.
get applications on Main Street, we get applications on Monroe Turnpike,
Yeah,
so
most of them are gonna be on state roads.
where there is some lights, so we don't need to duplicate more lights.
Okay.
Okay. Good point, thank you. Anything else? Last chance, anybody have anything? We're adjourned.